Welcome to the Liberty Myself Emancipation Media Club. Today's reading is
Wild Apples by Henry David Thoreau.
This is part of our twice-daily content heartbeat designed to help build information autonomy in our algorithm-dominated world. Listen, reflect, and engage however works for you. Without further ado, let's jump in. Stay free.
Wild Apples by Henry David Thoreau. The fruit, and its flavor, the time for wild apples is the last of October and the 1st of November. They then get to be palatable, for they ripen late, and they are still, perhaps, as beautiful as ever. I make a great account of these fruits, which the farmers do not think it worth the while to gather, wild flavors of the muse, vivacious and inspiriting. The farmer thinks that he has better in his barrels, but he is mistaken, unless he has a walker's appetite and imagination, neither of which can he have, such as grow quite wild, and are left out till the 1st of November. I presume that the owner does not mean to gather. They belong to children as wild as themselves, to certain active boys that I know, to the wild-eyed woman of the fields, to whom nothing comes amiss, who gleans after all the world, and, moreover, to us walkers. We have met with them, and they are ours. These rights, long enough insisted upon, have come to be an institution in some old countries, where they have learned how to live. I hear that the custom of grippling, which may be called apple gleaning, is, or was formerly, practiced in Herefordshire. It consists in leaving a few apples, which are called the gripples, on every tree, after the general gathering, for the boys, who go with climbing poles and bags to collect them. As for those I speak of, I pluck them as a wild fruit, native to this quarter of the earth, fruit of old trees that have been dying ever since I was a boy and are not yet dead, frequented only by the woodpecker and the squirrel, deserted now by the owner, who has not faith enough to look under their boughs. From the appearance of the treetop, at a little distance, you would expect nothing but lichens to drop from it, but your faith is rewarded by finding the ground strewn with spirited fruit, some of it, perhaps, collected at squirrel holes, with the marks of their teeth by which they carried them, some containing a cricket or two silently feeding within, and some, especially in damp days, a shellless snail. The very sticks and stones lodged in the treetop might have convinced you of the savoriness of the fruit which has been so eagerly sought after in past years. I have seen no account of these among the fruits and fruit trees of America, though they are more memorable to my taste than the grafted kinds. More racy and wild American flavors do they possess, when October and November, when December and January, and perhaps February and March even, have assuaged them somewhat. An old farmer in my neighborhood, who always selects the right word, says that they have a kind of bow arrow tang. Apples for grafting appear to have been selected commonly, not so much for their spirited flavor as for their mildness, their size, and bearing qualities, not so much for their beauty, as for their fairness and soundness. Indeed, I have no faith in the selected lists of pomological gentlemen. Their favorites and nonsuches and seek no farthers, when I have fruited them, commonly turn out very tame and forgettable. They are eaten with comparatively little zest, and have no real tang nor smack to them. What if some of these wildings are acrid and puckery, genuine verjuice, do they not still belong to the Pomaceae, which are uniformly innocent and kind to our race? I still begrudge them to the cider mill. Perhaps they are not fairly ripe yet, no wonder that these small and high-colored apples are thought to make the best cider. Loudon quotes from the Herefordshire report that apples of a small size are always, if equal in quality, to be preferred to those of a larger size, in order that the rind and kernel may bear the greatest proportion to the pulp, which affords the weakest and most watery juice. And he says, that, to prove this, Dr. Simons of Hereford, about the year 1800, made one hogshead of cider entirely from the rinds and cores of apples, and another from the pulp only, when the first was found of extraordinary strength and flavor, while the latter was sweet and insipid. Evelyn says that the red strake was the favorite cider apple in his day, and he quotes one Dr. Newberg as saying, in Jersey, tea is a general observation. As I hear, that the more of red any apple has in its rind, the more proper it is for this use. Pale-faced apples they exclude as much as may be from their cider vat. This opinion still prevails, all apples are good in November. Those which the farmer leaves out as unsaleable, and unpalatable to those who frequent the markets, are choicest fruit to the walker. But it is remarkable that the wild apple, which I praise as so spirited and racy when eaten in the fields or woods, being brought into the house, has frequently a harsh and crabbed taste. The saunterer's apple not even the saunterer can eat in the house. The palate rejects it there, as it does haws and acorns, and demands a tamed one. For there you miss the November air, which is the sauce it is to be eaten with. Accordingly, when Tityrus, seeing the lengthening shadows, invites Melibos to go home and pass the night with him, he promises him mild apples and soft chestnuts. I frequently pluck wild apples of so rich and spicy a flavor that I wonder all orchardists do not get a scion from that tree, and I fail not to bring home my pockets full. But perchance, when I take one out of my desk and taste it in my chamber, I find it unexpectedly crude, sour enough to set a squirrel's teeth on edge and make a jay scream. These apples have hung in the wind and frost and rain till they have absorbed the qualities of the weather or season, and thus are highly seasoned, and they pierce and sting and permeate us with their spirit. They must be eaten in season, accordingly, that is, out of doors. To appreciate the wild and sharp flavors of these October fruits, it is necessary that you be breathing the sharp October or November air. The outdoor air and exercise which the walker gets give a different tone to his palate, and he craves a fruit which the sedentary would call harsh and crabbed. They must be eaten in the fields, when your system is all aglow with exercise, when the frosty weather nips your fingers, the wind rattles the bare boughs or rustles the few remaining leaves, and the jay is heard screaming around. What is sour in the house a bracing walk makes sweet. Some of these apples might be labeled, to be eaten in the wind. Of course no flavors are thrown away, they are intended for the taste that is up to them. Some apples have two distinct flavors, and perhaps one half of them must be eaten in the house, the other outdoors. One Peter Whitney wrote from Northborough in 1782, for the Proceedings of the Boston Academy, describing an apple tree in that town producing fruit of opposite qualities, part of the same apple being frequently sour and the other sweet, also some all sour, and others all sweet, and this diversity on all parts of the tree. There is a wild apple on Noshotok Hill in my town which has to me a peculiarly pleasant bitter tang. Not perceived till it is 3/4 tasted. It remains on the tongue. As you eat it, it smells exactly like a squash bug. It is a sort of triumph to eat and relish it. I hear that the fruit of a kind of plum tree in Provence is called prunes cibourelles, because it is impossible to whistle after having eaten them, from their sourness. But perhaps they were only eaten in the house and in summer, and if tried out of doors in a stinging atmosphere, who knows but you could whistle an octave higher and clearer. In the fields only are the sours and bitters of nature appreciated, just as the woodchopper eats his meal in a sunny glade, in the middle of a winter day, with content. Basks in a sunny ray there, and dreams of summer in a degree of cold which, experienced in a chamber, would make a student miserable. They who are at work abroad are not cold, but rather it is they who sit shivering in houses. As with temperatures, so with flavors, as with cold and heat, so with sour and sweet. This natural raciness, the sours and bitters which the diseased palate refuses, are the true condiments. Let your condiments be in the condition of your senses. To appreciate the flavor of these wild apples requires vigorous and healthy senses, papillae firm and erect on the tongue and palate, not easily flattened and tamed. From my experience with wild apples, I can understand that there may be reason for a savage's preferring many kinds of food which the civilized man rejects. The former has the palate of an outdoor man. It takes a savage or wild taste to appreciate a wild fruit. What a healthy out-of-door appetite it takes to relish the apple of life, the apple of the world, then, nor is it every apple one desire, nor that which pleases every palate best. Tea is not the lasting duxon I require, nor yet the red-cheeked greening I request, nor that which first beshood the name of wife, nor that whose beauty caused the golden strife. No, no. Bring me an apple from the tree of life. So there is one thought for the field, another for the house. I would have my thoughts, like wild apples, to be food for walkers, and will not warrant them to be palatable, if tasted in the house. Their beauty, almost all wild apples are handsome. They cannot be too gnarly and crabbed and rusty to look at. The gnarliest will have some redeeming traits even to the eye. You will discover some evening redness dashed or sprinkled on some protuberance or in some cavity. It is rare that the summer lets an apple go without streaking or spotting it on some part of its sphere. It will have some red stains, commemorating the mornings and evenings it has witnessed, some dark and rusty blotches, in memory of the clouds and foggy, mildewy days that have passed over it, and a spacious field of green reflecting the general face of nature, green even as the fields, or a yellow ground, which implies a milder flavor. Yellow as the harvest, or russet as the hills. Apples, these I mean, unspeakably fair, apples not of discord, but concord. Yet not so rare but that the homeliest may have a share. Painted by the frosts, some a uniform clear bright yellow, or red, or crimson, as if their spheres had regularly revolved, and enjoyed the influence of the sun on all sides alike, some with the faintest pink blush imaginable, some brindled with deep red streaks like a cow, or with hundreds of fine blood-red rays running regularly from the stem dimple to the blossom end, like meridional lines, on a straw-colored ground, some touched with a greenish rust, like a fine lichen, here and there, with crimson blotches or eyes more or less confluent and fiery when wet. And others gnarly, and freckled or peppered all over on the stem side with fine crimson spots on a white ground, as if accidentally sprinkled from the brush of him who paints the autumn leaves. Others, again, are sometimes red inside, perfused with a beautiful blush, fairy food, too beautiful to eat, apple of the Hesperides, apple of the evening sky. But like shells and pebbles on the seashore, they must be seen as they sparkle amid the withering leaves in some dell in the woods, in the autumnal air, or as they lie in the wet grass, and not when they have wilted and faded in the house. The naming of them, it would be a pleasant pastime to find suitable names for the 100 varieties which go to a single heap at the cider mill. Would it not tax a man's invention, no one to be named after a man, and all in the lingua vernicula? Who shall stand godfather at the christening of the wild apples? It would exhaust the Latin and Greek languages, if they were used, and make the lingua vernicula flag. We should have to call in the sunrise and the sunset, the rainbow and the autumn woods and the wild flowers, and the woodpecker and the purple finch, and the squirrel and the jay and the butterfly, the November traveler and the truant boy, to our aid. In 1836 there were in the garden of the London Horticultural Society more than 1,400 distinct sorts. But here are species which they have not in their catalogue. Not to mention the varieties which our crab might yield to cultivation. Let us enumerate a few of these. I find myself compelled, after all, to give the Latin names of some for the benefit of those who live where English is not spoken, for they are likely to have a worldwide reputation. There is, first of all, the wood apple, Malus sylvatica, the blue jay apple, the apple which grows in dells in the woods, Sylvestravalis, also in hollows in pastures, Campistravalis, the apple that grows in an old cellar hole, Malus cellaris, the meadow apple, the partridge apple, the truant's apple, Cecitoris, which no boy will ever go by without knocking off some, however late it may be. The saunterer's apple, you must lose yourself before you can find the way to that, the beauty of the air, Decus aries, December eating, the frozen thawed, Gelato saluta, good only in that state, the Concord apple, possibly the same with the Mesquitequidensis, the Assabet apple, the brindled apple, wine of New England, the chicory apple, the green apple, Malus viridis. This has many synonyms. In an imperfect state, it is the Cholera morbifera aut dysenterifera, puerulus. Delectissima, the apple which Atlanta stopped to pick up, the hedge apple, Malus sepium, the slug apple, Lamatia, the railroad apple, which perhaps came from a core thrown out of the cars. The apple whose fruit we tasted in our youth, our particular apple, not to be found in any catalogue, Pediostrium solatium, also the apple where hangs the forgotten scythe, Iduna's apples, and the apples which Loki found in the wood, and a great many more I have on my list, too numerous to mention, all of them good. As Bodius exclaims, referring to the cultivate kinds, and adapting Virgil to his case, so I, adapting Bodius, not if I had 100 tongues, 100 mouths, an iron voice, could I describe all the forms, and reckon up all the names of these wild apples. The last gleaning, by the middle of November the wild apples have lost some of their brilliancy, and have chiefly fallen. A great part are decayed on the ground, and the sound ones are more palatable than before. The note of the chickadee sounds now more distinct, as you wander amid the old trees, and the autumnal dandelion is half closed and tearful. But still, if you are a skillful gleaner, you may get many a pocketful even of grafted fruit, long after apples are supposed to be gone out of doors. I know a blue pearmain tree, growing within the edge of a swamp, almost as good as wild. You would not suppose that there was any fruit left there, on the first survey, but you must look according to system. Those which lie exposed are quite brown and rotten now, or perchance a few still show one blooming cheek here and there amid the wet leaves. Nevertheless, with experienced eyes, I explore amid the bare alders and the huckleberry bushes and the withered sedge, and in the crevices of the rocks, which are full of leaves, and pry under the fallen and decaying ferns, which, with apple and alder leaves, thickly strew the ground. For I know that they lie concealed, fallen into hollows long since and covered up by the leaves of the tree itself, a proper kind of packing. From these lurking places, anywhere within the circumference of the tree, I draw forth the fruit, all wet and glossy, maybe nibbled by rabbits and hollowed out by crickets and perhaps with a leaf or two cemented to it, as Curzon an old manuscript from a monastery's mouldy cellar. But still with a rich bloom on it, and at least as ripe and well kept, if not better than those in barrels, more crisp and lively than they. If these resources fail to yield anything, I have learned to look between the bases of the suckers which spring thickly from some horizontal limb, for now and then one lodges there, or in the very midst of an alder clump, where they are covered by leaves, safe from cows which may have smelled them out. If I am sharp-set, for I do not refuse the blue pearmain, I fill my pockets on each side, and as I retrace my steps in the frosty eve, being perhaps 4 or 5 miles from home, I eat one first from this side, and then from that, to keep my balance. I learned from Topsels Gessner, whose authority appears to be Albertus, that the following is the way in which the hedgehog collects and carries home his apples. He says, his meat is apples, worms, or grapes. When he findeth apples or grapes on the earth, he rolleth himself upon them, until he have filled all his prickles, and then carrieth them home to his den, never bearing above one in his mouth, and if it fortune that one of them fall off by the way, he likewise shaketh off all the residue, and walloweth upon them afresh, until they be all settled upon his back again. So, forth he goeth, making a noise like a cartwheel, and if he have any young ones in his nest, they pull off his load wherewithal he is loaded, eating thereof what they please, and laying up the residue for the time to come. The frozen thawed apple, toward the end of November, though some of the sound ones are yet more mellow and perhaps more edible, they have generally, like the leaves, lost their beauty, and are beginning to freeze. It is finger cold, and prudent farmers get in their barreled apples, and bring you the apples and cider which they have engaged, for it is time to put them into the cellar. Perhaps a few on the ground show their red cheeks above the early snow, and occasionally some even preserve their color and soundness under the snow throughout the winter. But generally at the beginning of the winter they freeze hard, and soon, though undecayed, acquire the color of a baked apple. Before the end of December, generally, they experience their first thawing. Those which a month ago were sour, crabbed, and quite unpalatable to the civilized taste, such at least as were frozen while sound, let a warmer sun come to thaw them, for they are extremely sensitive to its rays, are found to be filled with a rich, sweet cider, better than any bottled cider that I know of, and with which I am better acquainted than with wine. All apples are good in this state, and your jaws are the cider press. Others, which have more substance, are a sweet and luscious food, in my opinion of more worth than the pineapples which are imported from the West Indies. Those which lately even I tasted only to repent of it, for I am semi-civilized, which the farmer willingly left on the tree, I am now glad to find have the property of hanging on like the leaves of the young oaks. It is a way to keep cider sweet without boiling. Let the frost come to freeze them first, solid as stones, and then the rain or a warm winter day to thaw them, and they will seem to have borrowed a flavor from heaven through the medium of the air in which they hang. Or perchance you find, when you get home, that those which rattled in your pocket have thawed, and the ice is turned to cider. But after the third or fourth freezing and thawing they will not be found so good. What are the imported half-ripe fruits of the torrid south to this fruit matured by the cold of the frigid north? These are those crabbed apples with which I cheated my companion, and kept a smooth face that I might tempt him to eat. Now we both greedily fill our pockets with them, bending to drink the cup and save our lappets from the overflowing juice, and grow more social with their wine. Was there one that hung so high and sheltered by the tangled branches that our sticks could not dislodge it? It is a fruit never carried to market, that I am aware of, quite distinct from the apple of the markets, as from dried apple and cider, and it is not every winter that produces it in perfection. The era of the wild apple will soon be past. It is a fruit which will probably become extinct in New England. You may still wander through old orchards of native fruit of great extent, which for the most part went to the cider mill, now all gone to decay. I have heard of an orchard in a distant town, on the side of a hill, where the apples rolled down and lay 4 feet deep against a wall on the lower side, and this the owner cut down for fear they should be made into cider. Since the temperance reform and the general introduction of grafted fruit, no native apple trees, such as I see everywhere in deserted pastures, and where the woods have grown up around them, are set out. I fear that he who walks over these fields a century hence will not know the pleasure of knocking off wild apples. Ah, poor man, there are many pleasures which he will not know. Notwithstanding the prevalence of the Baldwin and the Porter, I doubt if so extensive orchards are set out today in my town as there were a century ago, when those vast straggling cider orchards were planted, when men both ate and drank apples, when the pumice heap was the only nursery, and trees cost nothing but the trouble of setting them out. Men could afford then to stick a tree by every wallside and let it take its chance. I see nobody planting trees today in such out-of-the-way places, along the lonely roads and lanes, and at the bottom of dells in the wood. Now that they have grafted trees, and pay a prix for them, they collect them into a plat by their houses, and fence them in, and the end of it all will be that we shall be compelled to look for our apples in a barrel. This is the word of the Lord that came to Joel the son of Pethuel. Hear this, ye old men, and give ear, all ye inhabitants of the land. Hath this been in your days, or even in the days of your fathers, that which the palmer worm hath left hath the locust eaten, and that which the locust hath left hath the canker worm eaten, and that which the canker worm hath left hath the caterpillar eaten? Awake, ye drunkards, and weep. And howl, all ye drinkers of wine, because of the new wine. for it is cut off from your mouth. For a nation is come up upon my land, strong, and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he hath the cheek teeth of a great lion. He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. Be ye ashamed, O ye husbandmen. Howl, O ye vine dressers, the vine is dried up, and the fig tree languisheth, the pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree, even all the trees of the field, are withered, because joy is withered away from the sons of men. How do these sections' details about wild apples' taste and beauty inspire you to cherish the simple things around you?
This has been an EMC reading from Liberty Myself. To learn more about our project to create decentralized media alternatives, visit libertymyself.com. By creating Liberty Myself, we create liberty for all.